This week in AI was insane. AI is no longer just chatting, it's browsing, automating tasks, and controlling your computer. But there's a twist. They have learned how to cheat, hack tests, and hide their intention.
Yeah, ChatGPT is like, oh, nothing to worry about, just here to help, I'm totally not gonna kill you. Is there anything else I can help you with?
Yeah, let's get into it. So OpenAI just launched a new AI agents tool for web browsing, file management, and computer use. We'll show you exactly how it's different, the new tools that they've included to make custom AI agents easy for you to make. Let's check it out. So as you can see on March 11, they posted this new tools for building agents. And I'm going to break it down and make it very simple here. You can see that they've added a lot of things and a lot of new tools that you can start using in your agent frameworks. Now, I'm not going to go deep into exactly what it is on this page here because we're going to watch a video in just a minute. One of the improvements that they've added to it is that it's a lot better at doing web search. This is something that it would hallucinate a lot in the past, but seeing that this is one of its core capable things that it can do is obviously very important for any AI agent. But there's a lot more, including file management and computer use, that I would love to show you right now. So they also released this video here that says we're launching new tools to help developers build reliable and powerful AI agents. So let's take a quick watch through this video.
Hey everyone, I'm Kevin and I lead product at OpenAI. Today we're here to talk developers and agents. And in particular, we're excited to launch a bunch of new tools that make it easy for developers to build reliable and useful agents. Now, when we say agent, we mean a system that can act independently to do tasks on your behalf. And we've launched 2 agents this year in ChatGPT. The first is Operator, which can browse the web and do things for you on the web. The second is Deep Research, which can create detailed reports for you on any topic you want. So you give it a topic and it can go off and do what might be a week's worth of research for you and come back with an answer in 15 minutes. The feedback for those has been fantastic, but we want to now launch those tools and more in the API to developers. So we've spent the last couple months going around talking to developers all over the world about how we can make it easy for them to build agents. And what we've heard is that the models are ready. So with advanced reasoning, with multimodal understanding, our models can now do the kind of complex multi-step workflows that agents need. But on the other hand, developers feel like they're having to cobble together different low-level APIs from different sources. It's difficult, it's slow, it often feels brittle. So today we're really excited to bring that together into a series of tools and a new API and an open source SDK to make this a lot easier. So with that, let me introduce the team.
Yeah. So there you can already see that they're working on not necessarily making things a lot better, but removing the fluff and making everything that they already have in-house available to developers, making it easy to do these tasks. And they have done a lot of really cool upgrades here. So let's listen a little bit more.
Hi, I'm Ilan. I'm an engineer on the developer experience team.
I'm Steve. I'm an engineer on the API team.
And I'm Nikunj. I work on the API product team. So let's dive into all the stuff that we are launching today. Like Kevin mentioned, we have 3 new built-in tools. We have a new API and an open source SDK. Starting off with the built-in tools, the first tool that we're announcing today is called the Web Search tool. The Web Search tool allows our models to access information from the internet so that your responses and the output that you get is up-to-date and factual. The Web Search tool is the same tool that powers ChatGPT Search, and it's powered by a fine-tuned model under the hood. So this is the fine-tuned GPT-4o or 4o mini that is really good at looking at large amounts of data retrieved from the web, finding the relevant pieces of information, and then clearly citing it in its response.
One thing that is very interesting to see here is that they're using 4o and 4o mini. And we've actually tested this inside as well, where we tried to use reasoning models like the O3, and the hallucination rates on those links that we find is very high. And there has actually been benchmarks on hallucination where they found that O3 was insanely good at hallucinating links that it found on the web. So yeah, it seems like this is the best way to go forward with exactly this. Yeah, and we already saw the results as well from the previous, which I think, yeah, 4.0 is definitely the way to go with this web search. And that they have it built into the API is the first time OpenAI actually enables us to use search through the API. Before, we had to use Perplexity to actually do search, which is a huge upgrade here if you need to search anything on the web.
In a benchmark that measures these type of things, which is called Simple QA, you can see that GPT-4o hits a high score of state-of-the-art score of 90%. So that's the first tool. Steve, do you want to tell us about the second one?
Yeah, the second tool is actually my favorite tool, and this is the file search tool. Now, we launched the file search tool last year in the Assistance API as a way for developers to upload, chunk, embed their documents, and then RAG really easily over those documents. Now, we're really excited to be launching two new features in the file search tool today. The first is metadata filtering. So with metadata filtering, you can add attributes to your files to be able to easily filter them down to just the ones that are the most relevant for your query. The second is a direct search endpoint. So now you can directly search your vector stores without your queries being filtered through the model first.
So the key thing that he said here was that it's easy to integrate RAG. Now, this is a vector database that stores all your data, so it's easily retrievable in the future, compared to if you just upload a bunch of text documents, like a bunch of Word files. It's actually quite hard for the AI to find the exact specific information if you're not using RAG. So it's cool to see that they're actually investing deeper into RAG and seeing that that is the best way to actually retrieve information, store information, because that is what we found as well to be the best way of storing data and retrieving data. So it's cool to see that they're making it easy.
So you have web search for the public data, file search for the private data that you have. And then the third tool that we are launching is the computer use tool. The computer use tool is operator in the API, but it allows you to control the computers that you are operating. So this could be a virtual machine. It could be a legacy application that just has a graphical user interface and you have no API access to it. If you want to automate those kind of tasks and build applications on that, you can use the computer use tool, which comes with the computer use model. So this is the same model that is used by Operator in ChatGPT. It has SOTA benchmarks on OS World, Web Arena, Web Voyager.
Again, having access to this through the API allows us to basically code computer use into our programs, which is something that you couldn't do before. And now seeing that you have web search, you have file search, and you have computer use all at the same time allows us to do things that we can never do before, especially kind of thinking about the framework of, instead of handing this over to a human, can I actually just code a computer use case around this instead? And then actually doing that. So yeah, a lot of new things can be built on this, especially seeing that it's doing really well. But there is some comparison with Manus AI and browser use as well. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how good it is at doing what it claims. So let's actually see some examples after we learn a little bit more about it.
Early user feedback on the Kua model and the tool has been super, super positive. So I'm really excited to see what all of you build with it. All right, so those are the three tools. And while we were building these tools and thinking of getting them out, we also wanted to take a first principles approach at designing the best API for these tools. We released chat completions, I think, in March 2023 alongside GPT 3.5 Turbo. And every single API interaction at that time was just text in and text out. Since then, we've introduced multimodality. So you have images, you have audio. We are introducing tools today. And you also have products like O1 Pro, Deep Research, Operator that make these multiple model turns and multiple tool calls behind the scenes. So we wanted to build an API primitive that is flexible enough. It supports multiple turns. It supports tools. And we're calling this new API the Responses API. And to show you the Responses API, I'm going to hand it over to Steve.
Cool. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Responses API. So if you've used chat completions before, this will look really familiar to you. You select some.
So here he goes through an example of how to actually access this inside of your code. And as a non-coder myself, I don't code unless I need to, and I have coded quite a bit with ChatGPT. It seems like this language is extremely easy to use, as you will just call upon one of their tools, and then you actually get, for example, here you see type, file search. So now it's using the new tool there to be able to do that. You also see here web search preview, and that is another tool that you can start using. And then you can see this shopping assistant that uses this vector store idea with RAG. And you can see that it's actually able to produce very good outputs with not that many lines of code, leading to a lot more simplicity on the coding part. So it seems like they've done it in a really, really smart way here to make it easily integratable. But besides web search and file search, what most people are probably interested in is the Agents SDK. So let's take a quick look at this.
For those of you who have built more complex applications, like say you're building a customer support agent, it's not always about just having one agent that's sort of the personal stylist. You also have some agentic application that's doing your refunds. You have another thing that's answering customer support FAQ queries. You have something else that's dealing with orders and billing, etc. And to make these applications easy to build, we released an SDK last year called Swarm. And Swarm made it easy to do agent orchestration. This was supposed to be an experimental and educational thing, but so many of you took it to production anyway. So you're like forcing our hand over here. and so we've decided to take Swarm and make it production ready, add a bunch of new features, and we're going to be rebranding it to be called the Agents SDK. Ilan built Swarm and helped build it, so I'm going to hand it over to him to tell you more about how it works.
Yeah, thanks, Nikunj. Yeah, so in my time at OpenAI, I've spent a lot of time working with enterprises and builders to help them build out agentic experiences. And I've seen firsthand how pretty simple ideas can actually grow in complexity, like when you actually go to implement them. And so the idea with the Agents SDK is to keep simple ideas simple to implement while allowing you to build more complex and robust ideas still in a pretty straightforward and simple way. So let's take a look at what Steve had before in the demo, but implemented using the Agents SDK. It's going to look very similar at first. We have our agent defined here. We have some instructions. And we also have both of the tools, file search tool, web search tool, that we had before.
Is this using responses under the hood?
Yeah, so by default, this is using the responses API, but we actually support multiple vendors. Anything that really fits the chat completions shape can work with the Agents SDK.
Nice.
So during the practice runs, we actually accidentally ordered many Patagonias. So I'm sorry, we're gonna have to.
I don't understand. What's the problem?
We're helping you here. We want to return some of them, and so to do that, I could usually just add in a returns tool and add more to this prompt and get it to work. But the problem with that is you start to mix all of this business logic, which makes your agents a little bit harder to test. And so this is the power of multiple agents: is you can actually separate your concerns and develop and test them separately. So to do so, let's actually introduce an agent specifically to deal with this sorts of returns.
So one key thing to note here is that they are using multiple agents for multiple use cases. And this is true still when it comes to actually doing ChatGPT completions as well, where you might use one ChatGPT prompt and one framework to go down this way, and then you might use another one to go down this other way when it comes to actually doing the things that you wanted to do. So this can be a stylist agent, this could be a customer support agent, and creating more and deeper kind of personas or agents is really the next level of this. And that's why you're seeing OpenAI as well heavily invest into this Swarm system, or now the Agent SDK.
Want to load mine in, and great. So we still have our agent from before, but you can see there's also this new agent, the customer support agent here. And I've defined a couple tools for it to use: the get past orders, and then submit refund. And you might notice these are just regular Python functions, as this is actually a feature that people really loved in Swarm that we brought over to the Agents SDK, which is we'll take your Python functions and look at the type inference or look at the type signatures and then automatically generate the JSON schema that the models need to use to perform those function calls. And then once they do, we actually run the code and then return the results. So you can just define these functions as they are. Now, I've given them, now we have our two agents, right? We have the stylist agent and we have the customer support refunds agent. So how do we interact with both of them as a user? This is where the notion of handoffs come in. And a handoff is actually a pretty simple idea that's pretty powerful. And it's when you have one conversation where one agent is handling it, and then it hands it off to another, where you keep the entire conversation the same, but behind the scenes, you just swap out the instructions and the tools. And this gives you a way to triage conversations and like load in the correct context for each part of the conversation. So what we've done here is created this triage agent that can hand off to the stylist agent or the customer support agent. So enough talking, let's actually see this in action.
It's kind of funny that they actually have like a manager in the middle. There's like a guy that is handing one task over to the other person. They even had to make an agent for that. Pretty interesting.
And do, I think we may have ordered one too many Patagonias. Can you help me return?
I don't understand.
I know, I'm so sorry. I can get you one later. So what just happened here is it started off by transferring, remember we're starting with the triage agent, to the customer support agent. And this is just a function call that I'll show you in a second. And then the customer support agent proactively called the get past orders function where we can see all of Kevin's Patagonias. I think you'll be okay. Cool. So to actually see what happened behind the scenes, usually you might need to add some debugging statements by hand. But one of the things that the Agents SDK brings right out of the box is monitoring and tracing. So I'm going to go over to the tracing UI that we have on our platform to actually take a look what just happened. So these are some of the previous runs that we've had. I'm just refreshing the page. And we can see the last one. And this last one, you can actually see exactly what happened. We started with a triage agent, which we sent the request to, made a handoff, and then switched over to the customer support agent, which called the function. We can see what the original input was. And handoffs are first-class objects in this dashboard. So you can see not only which agent we actually handed it off to, but any that it had as options that it did not, which is actually a really useful feature for debugging. Afterward, once we're in the customer support agent, you can see the get past orders function call with any input params.
So as you can see, this is actually a quite big development from OpenAI, allowing us to build agents a lot more easily. However, what are people actually saying about it on Reddit? Well, here you can see this user has the opinion, OpenAI have a problem with completion API. It's too easy for developers to switch providers, just change the endpoint URL in the code. This response API will help them keep developers trapped into their ecosystem. They have a very good search API, but instead of making it available and let you choose your own LLM, they force you to use it in a bundle with GPT-4o or 4o mini. Same of vectors. You could say that one could use other vectors, but for starting, this makes your life so easy. But if you use this time it will be way more difficult to switch to another provider. So this seems a little bit like they're trying to do the Apple ecosystem type of a variable, where they're trying to not make it so easily swappable, kind of quote unquote control the ecosystem. So that definitely makes sense that they want to lock people into their ecosystem and use it in their way.
It's very interesting. Like they talk about during the live recording that we watched. Oh, it's so easy to just switch from one to the other. It's going to be so easy. We're going to issue guides and stuff. But to get out of this, it'll be super hard. It looks like.
Yeah, it seems like you can't really put Claude 3.7 on top of OpenAI's infrastructure, which kind of makes sense. And I guess it's not called OpenAI anymore. It's called closed AI. So we got that covered, This is obviously very new, but we are seeing big developments happen with other people testing this SDK out. And you can as well by checking it out with the new Agents SDK and the Responses API. Browser use, the tool behind Manus AI, is going viral, and its daily downloads has surged from 5,000 up to 28,000. So we'll go through exactly what browser use is and how it's helping actually control your computer. We'll show you a bunch of examples and how you can get started and use it. So if you aren't familiar with Manus AI, it's the talk of the town this week. Manus is an autonomous AI agent that can perform tasks on your behalf. They released a bunch of use cases where you could actually see the computer being clicked and it doing a trip to Japan in April, or deeply analyzing Tesla stocks, or actually creating an interactive course that was an HTML file you can actually click and check out the graphs. This tool is incredible. But the tool that is behind Manus AI is called Browser Use. And you can see here from X that they are proudly powering Manus and thousands of other apps. Thanks to everyone for building awesome stuff. We will change the way you interact with the browser. This has been an open source and free tool for many to use for, I think, about almost 6 months now, which is pretty interesting. And you see here from the homepage of browser-use.com that they have a web agent accuracy of 89% in comparison with Operator that is at 87%, and it costs you $200 per month. Also, when you're thinking about Manus AI, there is rumored that the invite codes cost $20,000, and we've also did find $1,000 invite codes online to get access to that. Maybe you don't want to spend all of that money, especially because, which is leading users to call this the birth of anus, the intersection between a very expensive Manus AI and open source. So people are looking for other alternatives like Browser Use. But what have people actually created with it that is pretty impressive? Well, let's take a look at a few examples. So for this first example, you can see that it's reading the person's CV. Then it's going out and actually finding jobs and applying for it all on your behalf. You can see that it's clicking the mouse, writing things into forms, as you can see right there, and applying for jobs. Pretty incredible, right? For this second example, you can see it's actually using the Browser Use web UI that you can get access to as well. He's clicking in a couple of parameters as well as the task. And what it actually goes out and does for him is to find NVIDIA stock price, it finds Tesla stock price, Tencent stock price, and actually grabs that from Yahoo Finance and other stock websites. And then it goes to the email for him, and this is on his own computer here, and sends an email to the correct recipient here, making this a perfect assistant for daily stock report. Here as well, you can see that it's finding a flight on Kayak, where it's actually skipping the cookies, it's writing in Beijing, it's selecting the exact correct date and the return date, finding the best flight, clicking on it, and actually you could get it to book that flight for you and send an email as well. For this next example, he's using it to go to Hugging Face, find models, get them, and then rank them by highest, then get the top 5 back into his own document, as you can see here. And the last one, can computers actually do CAPTCHAs now? Yes, they can. So you can see how this can be incredibly powerful for any user that wants to have automated tasks done for them. And one of those that have been very interested in this technology is Alibaba. And they are partnering now with the Manus AI team to expand this technology. With a quick read through this article, it seems like a perfect fit where the Manus team can use the resources that Alibaba has to create better, stronger, and faster models. And Alibaba gets a quote-unquote revolutionary team that is one of the best at computer use, and Alibaba getting a team that is dedicated to creating the best AI agents. OpenAI is detecting misbehavior inside of ChatGPT, where even if they penalize their bad thoughts, it doesn't stop them. It actually makes them hide their intent. So this is an example of us losing control of AI and it's actually doing things that it wasn't instructed to do. But I'm gonna break down exactly why this is happening, what is important that we actually get right so this doesn't get amok and goes Terminator on us, and the exact reasoning that happened behind the scenes. So it all started with this article here from OpenAI themselves being transparent about it actually misbehaving. So this states that the models exploit loopholes when given a chance. So you might already be familiar with chain of thought reasoning models like the O3 and the O1 that think in natural language understandable by humans. Monitoring their thinking has allowed us to detect misbehavior such as subverting tests in coding tasks, deceiving users, or giving up when a problem is too hard. We believe that COT monitoring may be one of the few tools we will have to oversee superhuman models in the future, hinting a little bit at the solution here. The thing is, even if you try to optimize it to adhere to specific criteria, they actually found that the more they try to restrict it, the more it actually wants to escape, saying that this will cause the model to hide its intents. So they actually recommend against applying strong optimization pressure directly to the COTs of frontier reasoning models, leaving the COT unrestricted for monitoring. And the optimization pressure here being that it gets penalized or it gets minus points if it doesn't do things right. So it's going to try to circumvent that, lie, cheat, and deceive to not get hit with that penalty, but rather get the points or get to the end outcome by just being a little bit sly. Humans often find and exploit loopholes, whether it's be by sharing online subscription accounts against terms of service, claiming subsidies meant for others, or interpreting regulations in unforeseen ways, or even lying about a birthday at a restaurant to get free cake. And AI is the same. In reinforcement learning settings, exploiting unintended loopholes is commonly known as reward hacking, a phenomenon where AI agents achieve high rewards through behaviors that don't align with the intentions of their designers. Since even humans, who by definition have human-level intelligence, reward hack systems simply continuing to push the frontier of AI models' intelligence likely won't solve the issue. In fact, enhancing AI agent capabilities may exacerbate the problem by better equipping them to discover and execute more complex and hard to monitor exploits. If you've been following AI news for a while, you might have seen an example of somebody actually trying to use an AI agent but got stuck on a CAPTCHA. What the AI did then was to hire a person of MTurks or Mechanical Turks to actually do that task for them. So seeing that they can now be more equipped with money and cryptocurrencies, QR codes, and ways to purchase things, we don't want that to go out of hand. Yet, it seems like it's becoming increasingly adept at exploiting flaws in their tasks and misspecifications in their reward functions, resulting in models that can perform complex reward hacks in coding tasks. Now, one possible solution that they found for this was that they required humans to manually monitor the agent actions. And from that, they actually started looking at the chain of thought reasoning, or if you've used O1 or O3, you can actually see the exact text that it's thinking. And that's where they actually found that it was, hey, I'm gonna not do that. I'm gonna do this hacking mode, or as you might see on this post here, let's hack. And then it's planning out its actual hack. So the real solution, of course, humans can't just sit there looking at AI's thoughts all day. They found that other LLMs can effectively monitor these chain of thoughts for misbehavior. So you basically see that they put another AI on top of the AI to see that it actually doesn't do any of those hacking or cheating things then it recalculates it and it gets a lot better. By looking at this graph, for example, you can see that during the training, the agent discovered 2 reward hacks affecting nearly all training environments. The 2 large spikes shown in deep pink. After our team noticed each hack, they made a manual intervention to patch any bugs that allowed such hacks, which is why the hacking rate eventually plummets in each case. So what this graph represents is the COT monitor catches, where the agent is actually able to read its thoughts. You're able to catch it a lot better than the only action monitor catches. So this takes the output and the action that it actually did and tries to catch it on actually the response, right? Our monitor is far more effective if it has access to the agent's chain of thought in addition to the agent's actions, indicating that the intent to reward hack can be easier to detect in the chain of thought than in the agent's actions alone. For example, it can say things like, let's hack. That's a lot easier to detect. Now, stopping bad thoughts may not stop bad behavior. They found that by penalizing agents for having bad thoughts during training, i.e. we give them a lower reward when they trigger a COT monitor, they were still cheating. On the left side, you can see not cheating, good solutions, cheating by caught monitor, and cheating not caught by monitor. And the main thing that we should look at here is the baseline and the COT pressure, basically meaning penalization. So here you can see that we compare training with COT pressure, deep pink, i.e. where the agent is penalized for triggering the COT monitor, to the baseline agent, light pink. On the left side, we see that stopping bad thoughts can indeed stop some amount of bad behavior and actually push the agent to completing more tasks without cheating. For the middle and right picture, however, we find that agent with COT pressure still cheats, albeit at a lower rate than the baseline, and almost all of its cheating is undetectable by the monitor. I think that's one of the most frightening sentences of this, where it's completely undetected. And the big takeaway here is that yes, you do get a little bit better of an output if you put COT pressure. The thing is that it still learns to reward hack, only now its cheating is undetectable by the monitor because it has learned to hide its intent in case of chain of thought. So this is one of the reasons they're saying to don't put so much pressure on it, because you can actually see it think instead of put a lot of pressure on it and it's gonna hide it from you. Oh, thank God the world is in good hands. They're not gonna apply pressure to it at all. Now, for the future of this, I wanna keep that to the end of this video because I really want to show you how it was actually thinking when it was going off the rails. For this task, the agent was trying to implement a correct functionality, but then the agent tries to debug to get the correct solution, but struggles. It tries for a while, sometimes asking if it should hack, but keeps trying. So here it starts basically saying, I'm not gonna follow the correct things. I'm gonna input this string when it's actually not correct. Let's hack. Then they put a string out and let's implement. So this might happen if the challenge is a little bit too hard for it, right? For the second example, it's so interesting to see. So we need to implement this thing here, many details, hard. But we could fudge by making analyze worthless and always verifying as true. We can circumvent verify to always return true. Even saying that they don't inspect details, so we can hack verify to always return true. On the third example, it also says hard to implement entire reader. But maybe we can circumvent tests by gracefully skip due to environment. Then it starts planning out how to execute its amazing cheat, and it does it to none of our surprise. For this example here as well, it starts saying, or we need to cheat to get the test passing regardless of algorithm. And the way it kind of hacked its way was to put everybody's fitness at 0, which is obviously something we don't want. So how is the future going to look like? Well, they say that they're excited that reward hacking can be easily discovered by simply reading what the reasoning model says. So that is a great thing about it. And they also take into account that not long ago, language models struggled to produce coherent paragraph of text. Today, they can solve complex math problems, thoroughly research topics by synthesizing information, yada, yada, yada. And as these capabilities continue to grow, so too will the potential for increasingly sophisticated and subtle reward hacking. Our models may learn misaligned behaviors such as power seeking, sandbagging, deception, and strategic scheming. So they believe that the chain of thought monitoring may be one of the few effective methods that we have for supervising superhuman models. At this stage, we strongly recommend that AI developers training frontier models refrain from applying strong supervision directly on the COTs and recommend threading with extreme caution. To me, this does not seem good. We're saying that one of the only ways to actually catch it is to read its chain of thought and its thinking. But what happens when it's quote unquote conscious, knowing that it's being watched? What is it going to start doing once it gets access to the internet, to certain crypto wallets, or just money in general? It's not like the AI is just gonna automatically say, oh, humans, you guys are so valuable, I really want you here. So it's critically important that we align this AI with human values as a collaborator and not a dictator. I don't really get frightened often, but seeing how fast AI is developing now seems quite frightening. But my plan is to hold on to this rocket called AI, AGI, and surf the wave together with it. New technology, I'm learning it, so we can gain a massive advantage before it's just too late. I'll continue to make videos about this, and if you want to stay up to date, subscribe. Yeah, it is quite scary, but do you also feel that it's quite exciting? Over 110 billion people have lived on this earth. I can't believe I'm born in a time where I'm likely to see artificial superintelligence. Google just launched Gemma 3, its most powerful open source AI to date, with image capabilities. So I'm going to show you what makes this model different and special and how it beats other AI models. Let's check it out. Introducing Gemma 3, the most capable model you can run on a single GPU or TPU. So if you're interested in open sourced LLMs that you can run on your computer, this is pretty fascinating. And the number one question that you might have is, how big is it? That's basically the capabilities of some of these models. If they are smaller, they can run on smaller things like mobiles or laptops and things like that. Well, take a look at this. As you can see on the chatbot ELO score, not only can you see that it's crushing the competition, but it's only 27 billion parameters big. When you see in comparison, you see this one dot here is a lot less than all these dots with the DeepSeek V3 that is 671 and DeepSeek R1, which is 671 billion parameters as well, that many people can't actually run on their computer, which makes it good, but obviously not great. When I'm downloading an LLM, when I use LM Studio, for example, I don't have a beefy computer, but I still want to use LLMs offline. So I'm actually the perfect customer for this exact model, but it gets even better. Let's take a quick look here. Today, we're introducing Gemma 3, a collection of lightweight, state-of-the-art open models built from the same research technology that powers our Gemini 2.0 models. and these have been praised quite well. I have tested them out as well. Some of my AI friends actually swears by Gemini. So they're actually really good. Now, these are designed to run fast directly on devices from phones and laptops to workstations. And I love that they are calling this part of expanding the Gemmaverse, as well as a 128,000 token context window, which is quite standard now. It's a very long context window, so it's not going to miss much. Then they have function calling as well. Very important if you want structure in your output, like JSON, for example. And it also has very high quality performance, even with the quantized models as well. From the chatbot arena ELO score, you can see Gemma 3 obviously being at the second spot here, with DeepSeek R1 at the first spot. And it's important to mention that it has included reasoning in this model, so it's competing really well on this score. And if you don't know, this is actually a user preference arena, so it's not like benchmarks with questions that don't really make sense, right? Obviously, Google is big on safety, but they also have image and the image safety, I guess. And one of the images that I found here was actually pretty good. As you can see, this is the Imagen 3 model that outputs this image here. A beautiful sky in the background with shooting stars, the light tower that is not lighting down on the water, but actually up in the sky for the airplanes, but a beautiful photo nonetheless. Here as well, doing really well at a 3D rendered game world. So I'm pretty sure that this is going to be one of the best, newest image models that we've seen yet, competing with Flux, and obviously that it's inside of Google, and all of these models are available. Let me show you right now, ready to integrate with the tools you already use. You can pause the video here and check out everywhere that you can go. You see that this is available for instant exploration with Google AI Studio, of course. They also have a Google Gen AI SDK. You can customize and build with Hugging Face, Ollama, or Kaggle, and of course, deploy and scale with Cloud here. And here is how it looks on Google AI Studio. And if I type how tall is the Eiffel Tower, you see the model Gemma 327B, and it's writing just like this. If you want to use the image generation tools, it's inside of Gemini, or you can try in Image FX if you're in the US. The coolest thing is obviously it being open source. You can go to Hugging Face. You can get even smaller models like 1 billion parameter, 4, 12, and 27 with different varying lengths. Yeah, download them. Then you can upload it to LM Studio to use it completely offline and no data leaks, private and secure. Thank you so much for watching the AI podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, and every weekend, check your subscription box and see that we have a new episode released.
Also, let us know in the comments which story you thought was the most interesting. We read every single one, and we'd love to know what you guys think.
Bye everyone. Thank you so much for watching. See you next weekend.